Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs win. Cry, Eagles, cry.
Great, excited to be back in the league.
You know, every day I got the Three Stooges in the studio with me is a good fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So let's make sure he gets that bag.
Frauds, frauds! Woo!
Justin's way ahead in picks. That's all that you need to fucking know.
Show's over.
Show's over. We're going home. I would like to welcome you back to another page of the Playbook Sports Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Yesterday, we talked about the Denver Broncos. Today, we're going to talk about Downtown Sage Brown's secret favorite team, the Detroit Lions. Detroit, I'm addressing you directly. It has been so long, and here you are, going into the 2023 NFL season as the favorites to win their division. Lions fans, enjoy this feeling because you have earned this preseason excitement. Remember that this is just preseason, and at the end of the day, no offense, it's still the Detroit Lions. Is this the same old Lions, or is this the brand new Lions? Shout out Pat McAfee Show. Let's talk about it. The Detroit Lions came into this offseason with way more questions on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, on the offensive side, they own a fantastic offensive line with a bunch of road paving buffet boys. Absolutely love their offensive line. Love me some Penei Sewell. And then they've got a young and ascending star in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has been fantastic for them, and a really good rushing attack that they... This is going into the offseason. So going into the offseason, DeAndre Swift is solid. I like DeAndre Swift there. But let's go ahead, looking at, you just touched on the offensive side. Why all of a sudden, we know what Detroit does. They scored a ton of points last year, but they didn't stop anybody. So why all of a sudden do we have all of these high expectations for a team that has struggled for ever? But we can't start talking about key offseason additions and not start with new safety, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. What an excellent signing. Coming over from Philadelphia, he's going to immediately step into a leadership role on this team. I really do love that addition. But then they also went out and added Emmanuel Mosley and Cameron Sutton. Oh, our secondary was bad last year? Boom. Here's 4 new starters, just like that, ready to roll. They obviously didn't touch the offensive side this offseason a bunch because they didn't need to, guys. They scored so many points last year. They just couldn't stop other teams from scoring. But I do like the offensive addition of David Montgomery, who obviously they brought in more, but we'll talk about that when we get to their draft. I like what they did on the defensive side. They recognized where they were struggling. The defensive line was getting better, and Aiden Hutchinson was getting better as the season went on. Obviously, they found a diamond in James Houston IV. I like where their defense is going. I like where their linebackers are at. Their secondary was just absolutely terrible. It was so bad. And they clearly went into an offseason with a clear game plan of fixing it. And I love what they did. I like their moves. As far as key losses go, I don't like seeing them let DJ Chark walk. I understand he probably wanted a decent chunk of money. But with Jameson Williams missing 6 games due to being an idiot, I think missing DJ Chark is going to hurt because the teams that they play are going to really be able to key in on Amon-Ra St. Brown to start the season because their weapons are so depleted after him. But they also let Jamal Williams go, who was an absolute touchdown vulture last season. But I'm okay with it because of what they did during the draft, which let's talk about that right now. Detroit. I left after the first round thinking, oh my gosh, they had an opportunity to turn this franchise around, and they completely fumbled it. They just choked. I was so disappointed in them. And how do you trade back from pick 6 and then take Jahmyr Gibbs at pick number 12? What are you doing? When if you wanted a running back, guys, Bijan Robinson was on the board at pick number 6. Take the generational talent if you need a running back. I did not love that. And then Jack Campbell at 18 felt like a super reach when they could have gotten him in the second round probably. And I didn't think he was that much better than Trenton Simpson. I didn't think he was that much better than Drew Sanders. And they took him at 18 overall. I left day one thinking, man, what a bummer for Detroit fans. They were so close to looking over the season and thinking we've got a chance, and then they just fumbled it. That being said, they came back with a vengeance in the second round of the draft. Getting Sam Laporta early, I like that pick. I think he is going to be a great tight end. There's a little bit of history with Iowa tight ends and success in the NFL. I don't know if you've ever heard of George Kittle, but Laporta looks awesome. I think Laporta could be really, really good. And then one of my absolute favorite picks in the entire draft was getting Brian Branch at pick number 45. I do not understand how they got him so late in this draft. There was a time during the mock draft season, as we were pumping those out left and right, where I remember thinking, man, if Brian Branch goes at 10 to Philadelphia, that would be an awesome pick for them. And here he is on the board at 45. That is unbelievable value. So when we're evaluating this Detroit Lions draft, and I also really like the Hendon Hooker draft pick, by the way. Let him sit for a season and get healthy, and then see what you got in him next year. Jared Goff is going to be the guy this season. They think they're ready to compete right now. They're not going to start a rookie quarterback, and Hendon Hooker at 68 was awesome value, especially considering a lot of teams had him as a round one value pick. But if you look at the Lions picks in order, it's like, oh, why did they do that? But then if you just take the four names of Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch, you think, oh my God, what a haul. That's an absolute haul. But you do have to take into draft position, and you have to consider where they were taken in the draft. And because of that, I give them a flat A. Because those four players and Hendon Hooker, that's 5 great picks. That could be 5 starters in the next 2 years. If Jared Goff doesn't work out and Hendon Hooker comes back and is real solid for them, there's 5 starters that they just took in this draft class. Jimmy, if you would, imagine if Brian Branch went first, right? And then maybe Laporta at 18. And then they got Gibbs and Campbell in the second round. If you just switched where they went, you would think that's a fantastic draft. But because Jahmyr Gibbs went at 12 and they took a guy that they could have gotten with definitely their second first-round pick, maybe even their first second-round pick, we kind of knock them. And I really do wish that they would have just taken Bijan Robinson at 6 if they were going to go running back. Him behind that offensive line would be just devastating. But I really do like the players that they got in this draft, and I have to give them an A. I don't think that they should get any lower than an A. As far as their offseason goes, I really believe that they have earned the right to be considered the NFC North favorites. The Packers just shipped out Jordan Love. More on that tomorrow. And the Vikings were unsustainably good in one-score games last season, broke a record for most one-score wins. That doesn't happen, you guys. That's a lot of luck and a lot of the ball bouncing your way. And the Vikings have only shipped away all of their defensive talent with the Zadarius Smith trade just a day or two ago. They're gonna give up 30 points a game. Just watch. And I think the Bears are still a year or two away from really competing. I think that they still have a lot of roster holes they need to plug. And I just think that the Lions have the better overall roster. I really like what I'm seeing being built in Detroit. And for the offseason, I'm giving them an A as well. So an A for the draft and an A for the offseason. I think that this team is absolutely chomping at the bit to go. Last year, they were frisky. They went, 9-8 and just missed the playoffs because of a tiebreaker. And they definitely got better this offseason without any shadow of a doubt. And we're going to see right away just how good they are when they travel to Kansas City week 1 and go up against the Super Bowl champions. I actually really like that matchup because we get a team that everyone's thinking, is the hype real? Are they going to be legit? Or are we just going to be reminded in week 1 what the difference is between preseason hype and winning Super Bowls? I do think that they are going to consider to be a frisky team this season. And I am actually excited to watch Detroit Lions games, and I don't think I've said that in my entire life. So good on you, Detroit, for having a fantastic offseason. Super excited to see what they do. I know Sage is. I can't wait for him to get his St. Brown jersey someday. But yeah, huge fan of what Detroit's done. So that's all I've got on the Detroit Lions, and I will be back tomorrow with day number 12.